Hello, I'm B. Ruby Rich, and I'm here at the Walker Art Center for a Regis dialogue with Lili Taylor. Lili Taylor is as easily identified on screen as she is uneasily categorized. The characters she chooses to play and upon whose behalf directors seek her out are always women on the edge. They may be wounded or angry or simply unwilling to compromise. They can be underdogs or neurotics, psychotics, even hysterics. Taylor inhabits female beings who refuse to play by the rules. And in so doing, she makes it clear to us how inappropriate those rules really are, and how boring are the characters and the actors who try to play by them. She insists on our sympathy without ever begging for it, and she wins our empathy without ever sacrificing the dignity of her unruly characters to gain it. Lili Taylor is brave, even fearless. And as a result, she has created something more than a persona. She has fashioned a behavior, a whole set of behaviors, in fact, suggesting that there are ways for women to move through the world that the cinema has barely begun to imagine. Lili Taylor is a mortal saint and an immortal sinner, giving succor to us mere humans with her talent and her grace. So join me now for the Regis dialogue with Lili Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you obviously know who you're here for. Very good taste. I commend you. Before we start earnestly in on the discussions, we thought we'd bring those of you who weren't here last night up to speed. So we're going to open up with just one scene from Factotum, my favorite scene, and see what you think. Okay, I think we'll start with the clip.
Jesus, I thought I'd never see you again.
Well, here I am.
Oh, come on, let me look at you. You're thin. You've lost weight.
Well, you're looking good. Are you alone?
Yeah,
There's no one else?
nobody. You know, can't stand people.
Well, it's good to see you working. I'm embarrassed.
I love you, you idiot. We fucked 800 times, so relax. Still like my legs?
Hell yes. You finished with your work?
All but Mr. Clark's room. Mr. Clark doesn't care. He leaves me tips.
Oh,
I'm not doing anything. He just leaves me tips.
Jan. I love you, baby.
Bastard.
To let everybody loosen up and relax. So, plus, I love how gorgeous you are in that.
Thank
so,
you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You know, the Beat generation was not so great to women. I wonder what this character looked like to you in the screenplay, and whether you had any input into how she turns out like that on the screen.
You know, before I read the screenplay, I was a little worried that I was just a little worried. And then as I read it, I realized I was going to be fine, and I didn't have to do a lot of input, because that's when I realized Bukowski really had actually a love for women, even though he was confused and conflicted and all that. But that love that love and that curiosity and that trying to figure it out was underneath it and made my job a lot easier.
Huh. You know, you've played a lot of characters, a lot of women who are working class in the films, whether here or in Girls Town or, I mean, in Mystic Pizza for that matter. And yet they're never victims. They always have this like fabulous agency to them. And I wonder, do you pick the roles because you see that in the characters, or do the characters get that because you're in the role?
That's a good question. It's probably a little bit of both. It's probably there, but I guess that dignity is important to me. I didn't really. I guess I'm articulating it right now, but I guess that's important to me, and I guess I try to find where that is, the dignity and the respect that I have for the characters. Mm-hmm.
And I think you bring that to them because I think that's something that's really noticeable in the roles that you play, that you don't sell out your characters, that you really take them on, and if they might not have the dignity, you bring it to them. I mean, at what point in your acting do you think that happened? At what point did you kind of begin to see your way to characters?
Honestly, I've always loved acting, and I remember reading about it in high school and even younger than that, and I took lessons with a great woman, Joyce Piven, and in Chicago, outside Chicago. And so I really feel that from the beginning I worked hard and wanted to find out who this character was, and if anything, what I've been finding is to let go of whatever I did the last time and try to become a blank slate, which is really hard because it's so scary to just be blank and open, and you know, and to use myself too. I'm realizing if I don't go in here and use this, then who cares? Because I know the performances that move me the most is when the actor's really using themselves as well.
When you were starting out, when you were starting to act when you were young and when you were in high school, what did acting mean back then to you? Do you remember that?
Oh, it meant everything to me, but it meant I was more in love with the theater, and I don't know why I got this weird snobbery at such a young age. I was sort of like, film's not real, or the acting in film isn't real. I don't know why. But so I wanted to be a theater actress. That's what I wanted to be. And I thought that I had to get all this schooling before I could emerge, you know. And acting meant, I guess I've always been a feeler, and I guess I've always been curious about how to map those feelings out, you know, how to show those feelings, and then maybe see if somebody else is feeling something from what I'm doing.
Was there a kind of acting style back then? Like, what did you have people in mind? Were there other people, or was it really just being invented?
I think that Geraldine Page comes to mind. Betty Davis comes to mind. I guess I was attracted at a young age to just a lot of oomph and a lot of soul in the eyes and telling the truth.
Huh. And what was your family's attitude toward acting when you started?
My dad was a little on the outside anyway, so he did not want me to be a 9-to-5 or anything like that. He was encouraging me to do anything on the outside. I don't know why, but...
Don't get caught, stay out there.
Yeah.
Now, was that don't do what I did or do what I did?
Well, let's see. Well, he didn't do 9-to-5 either. I guess it was probably stick with me, kid. Let's go on the outside. I think it was that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And was Chicago as much of a theater town then as it became? I mean, was it almost a kind of like manifest destiny of geography?
I think I could feel it. I mean, because I went to Carnegie Mellon for an acting summer in going into senior in high school, and I worked on a Shepherd monologue, my first monologue I really, really worked on. And yeah, and I could feel it, like Shepherd, Chicago, Steppenwolf, all that. I could feel it, even though I was in the suburbs, I could feel it, you know? Yeah, and then I went to college in Chicago.
At Goodman,
conservatory,
right?
Yeah, conservatory, yeah. So, and I could feel the theater. I mean, there was 120 nonprofit houses when I was there, except I got my equity card too soon. And so I got in a fight with equity, and you know, I said, fuck you, and I moved to New York, and that was that. Because all the theater I wanted to do was non-equity, because there were only 20 equity houses, and the theater I found a little bit more Not experimenting, not figuring something out.
So you got caught in like this rules crunch.
I did with my school. I got in a fight with my school. I got in a fight with equity, and that was that.
Yeah, so double outsider, triple outsider.
Yeah, right. Dad, I'm doing it. I'm on the outside.
Now, you made Mystic Pizza when you were still at Goodman, is that right?
No, I had been gone by then. I was still in Chicago though, and I was taking improv with Del Close, Del Close worked with John Belushi and all those Saturday Night Live guys, and he was a great Chicago figure.
You never went on Saturday Night Live though, did you?
Oh, I couldn't do that, no way. I tried that comedy thing, oh my God, no way, not for me, it's too scary.
Great, you were saved for us.
Whew. Yeah.
Well, I think we should see Mystic Pizza maybe before we talk about it. So we've got a clip from Mystic Pizza. Can we take a look?
So there's Pops, all 130 pounds of him, like trying to knock the shit out of big old Bill, and Bill's just standing there, you know, like trying to be polite and pulling his pants at the same time. I nearly peed in my pants.
So close to a clean getaway.
Hey, so where's the Prince of Prep School this weekend?
He's in Greenwich visiting his grandmother. She's 9 years old and drives her own rules. Big deal. He'll be back Sunday night.
Hey, Joe! Jojo! What do you think?
That isn't funny. Whose side are you guys on? You know something, Bill? You are a real asshole.
What?
Oh, thank God I didn't marry him.
What's the matter?
What? You think this is gonna make me marry you?
Oh, come
Do you?
on.
Well, it's not, because I don't have to marry an asshole. It's the 80s. Why would I marry an asshole?
Joe, come on.
You can't force me to do something I'm not ready to do, Bill.
Come on, I was joking.
And until I am, if I ever am, the answer is no.
But it's just a joke.
No! Asshole.
All right.
What?
This is your life. It's very strange. I haven't seen that for 20 years.
Neither had I. Does it bring back any memories?
Well, it's funny. You know, it was my first movie, and so I am very grateful for that. But it's funny. I was that director was making me angry at times. I had to fight a lot again on that one because I felt like he was really pushing me into this. I felt like his view of women was very narrow, and some of his direction to me was, and I rewrote a lot of stuff, and it was a good experience because I realized, okay, I don't have to do what's on this page. I can have a dialogue with this director. If I disagree with him, we can talk about it. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do, and I could learn that on that one, and it was a good one. But that was actually a tough shoot. It was funny, yeah.
And this was Donald Petrie, who we've heard much more from you than we have from Donald Petrie.
Yeah.
But
no offense to him.
No,
I mean, he gave me my first job. Thanks so much. But there was one time I was like, I plugged my ears. He was like confusing me. I said, you're confusing me. So, yeah.
Well, okay, I have to admit that partly I really love this scene because you're acting away and Julie Roberts is standing next to you doing reaction shots. So I couldn't resist. But given the plot of this film that you keep refusing to marry Bill, it did make me wonder whether, Runaway Bride came off of here. When you were the original Runaway Bride.
Yeah, maybe it did, yeah.
But there's just such great spirit to your character. And, this is 1988, and you have this one line like, this is the 80s, Bill, What was your sense of where this film fit into the culture when you were all making it?
Well, my sense was actually, I felt like a movie about three girls, I frankly didn't think a lot of people were going to be that interested in it. There was still an attitude about like, it's a movie with girls, or I don't know. And so I was surprised that it kind of was like, and still hanging around. I still have people telling me they saw it and appreciated it, and it was it makes me happy, that our lives are interesting too, yeah. Yeah.
Is that often the case, that when you're making a film, you don't know what kind of fate it's going to have? I mean, how often are you right? How often do you have a sense of when a film is really going to hit and when a film isn't, or whether people are going to see a film the way you see it? How often do you line up?
You know, I stopped trying to have any expectations, because film, it's like once my job's over, filming ends, it's so out of my hands. So much can happen, and so much has happened to so many of my films, that to really, I try to just make it about the experience, because then I can't lose. Then I've had a great experience, and then it doesn't matter what happens. And because maybe at the beginning I did have some expectations, and I found that having expectations got me into trouble. Mm-hmm. So I don't even line up. I don't do anything. There's no lining anything. I'm just there, and there might be unconscious stuff, but I don't know what it is. Yeah. Did you get letters after this film came out? Did you get No? Julia did. I didn't. But that's okay. We have different paths, you know.
No, spunky girls from fishing towns weren't writing to you?
No, but it's funny because I did run into.
I thought maybe, even ice fishing towns.
They weren't writing, but it's funny. Like I did have connections with women on the street. For instance, like some nurses, you know, and they'd say, "Oh, we all watch it together on Saturday or something," you know, all the women who nurse together, or all the, you know, it just seems like groups of women would watch it, and and they loved it, and and they told me that, you know, I didn't get a letter, but they spoke to me, and it was nice.
Mm-hmm. You have another great scene toward the end of the film when you've decided that, you know, that when Bill's not going to be with you anymore, and you announce to everybody in the cafe that you've broken up with him. And it was really hard for me to choose between these two clips. And it's a scene where you sort of speak from the heart about how your life is actually going to be okay without him. To what extent did you have input into that, since you just mentioned this, into that monologue?
I rewrote that one. I did.
What was it like before?
I didn't believe it. I didn't, that's the thing. I just was like, I don't believe a word of this. And it wouldn't come out. I was trying to say the lines. So I just rewrote it, and I slid the note under the director's door and just hoped, you know, he would not put up a fight, and he didn't. He didn't.
How often do directors respond that way? How often are you able to have that input?
Honestly, since then, I feel like I've had great relationships with directors since then. I rarely have friction, because the whole thing is I love the relationship so much with the director. That's why the Donald disappointed me a little bit, because that channel was so narrow between us, you know? But so I feel like my relationships with directors are fantastic. Yeah.
Has what you've looked for in a director you're going to work with changed over the course of your career?
No. It hasn't.
And what is it? What do you look for?
A vision, and then the collaboration. Mm. Yeah.
Their willingness to collaborate?
Yeah. But honestly, I've worked with some directors who maybe weren't so great on the collaboration, but their vision was great, and I was so willing to execute that. And if this was part of their MO, fine. You know, that was okay. As long as there was a respect or something there. Yeah.
How much did your life change after doing Mystic Pizza?
Not much, actually. Not much.
Did you go back into theater on stage?
Still lived in Chicago, did theater still, and didn't change at all, really.
How did you meet Nancy Savoca then?
How did I meet Nancy? I think I auditioned for Nancy. Well, I was in New York by that point. I think I auditioned for Nancy. Yes.
You heard about Dogfight. Did you have an agent or a manager yet at that point?
Yeah, I got an agent early. I got an agent when I was a senior in high school, when I was 17. It happened a lot earlier. I didn't want it to happen that early. I don't know why, I just didn't. Yeah.
Now, if you didn't want it to happen, how did it happen?
Because
doesn't sound like one of your characters.
My high school had a great acting department, and the Chicago would call up, you know, if films came into Chicago, they'd call up my acting teachers and send in kids if there was kids, and I went, I thought, okay, and I went to a cattle call, except by accident I went to the agent's place where the director was meeting actresses, and he saw me, and I read, and I got close to it, and then boom, 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 happened from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when production was still in the United States, this could happen to kids in high school, huh?
Yeah.
I guess now it happens to Canadian kids or something, or Louisiana kids.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a scene from Dogfight. I think before we see it, though, I want to ask you about that screenplay and about working with River Phoenix and how that felt as you went into it. It was a very different kind of film from Mystic Pizza. Much more was on you. How was that? How was that shift into that kind of a film and that kind of a story?
Yeah, good distinction. I think that was the big shift for me. Probably more work done on the script on that one, more work done with Nancy, a lot more preparation. I had to try to gain 40 pounds, so I prepped for 2 months prior, couldn't gain the 40 pounds. I just started to get sick, and I felt ashamed. I felt like I was failing, even though I know it's not my fault. My body rejected it, but I felt that really bad about playing a part. I felt very Hollywood, playing a part like that, being 120 pounds, not overweight. And then I felt like, I told Nancy, I'm really upset. I can't gain this weight. I don't feel like I should do this. I don't feel right about this. And we talked about it, and we changed the character a bit. And we also realized it's the end of the 50s, early 60s, and the definition of beauty was so narrow that we worked with that. And I think for me it became a more interesting project because it became about perceptions and more, not as much about Rose, but about society or Bird Lace and what he was representing. Because I even know in high school I felt less than in a lot of ways, even though I was perfectly fine looking, but even I felt less than. So I could relate. And even, all of us, we look at magazines. I mean, a lot of women, we don't look like the women we see in magazines and so on. So anyways, I realized it was going to be okay not getting all that weight on.
So setting it back in the late 50s, early 60s, you're thinking of the kind of Sandra Dee kind of standard of beauty, or were there particular people you thought about?
Yeah, the Sandra Dee and just the women, the constrictions and what was allowed from a woman and what was considered okay and allowed.
So we're going to see a scene toward the middle, I suppose, of Dogfight, when, for those of you who haven't seen it, and since it's too dark in the theater for me to ask who has, I should say that this is a showdown kind of scene between Lily and the River Phoenix character over his having taken her to a dance where all of the soldiers are competing to see who can bring the ugliest girl. And then whoever brings the ugliest girl will win the money. And
one thing I want to say really quick. One thing we modified was that the River's character was under time pressure, which I think helped also justify why he picked my character.
He was shipping out the next morning to Vietnam. And interestingly, the film, since it was first released, has become more and more of a classic and is now talked about as one of the best anti-war films dealing with the Vietnam War.
Very good.
And we'll talk about that a bit after you see the clip. So go ahead, please.
To pine and sigh.
Rosie, what is it? Who's out there?
It's all right. It's just Captain.
A handsome devil. He's got a chain 5 miles long, and on every link a heart does dangle of another maid he's loved and wronged. Go court another tender maid.
Here, come on.
And hope that
Here. Good boy, yeah. You're a big fucker, aren't you? Yeah? What's up? Oh, look at those ears.
and I decided to sleep alone all of my life.
Motherfucker!
What do you want? Pretty hokey, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I thought you'd like it.
Did I win anything?
Nothing. You were disqualified.
Liar.
Rose, I swear.
What about those other girls?
What about him?
What about their feelings? Do you honestly think that they have no feelings?
They didn't know anything about it, Rose, and besides, you're different. I've been in 6 different dogfights, and you're the first girl I ever tried to talk out of going.
You did not.
Yes, ma'am. You don't remember? In front of the nightlight, I tried to stop you, and before dancing, too. Because when you dance, that's final judging.
That's crazy. I don't understand you.
There's a lot of shit I don't understand, Rose. I don't apologize, ever. And I came all the fuck way back here to apologize, and I don't understand that. I wanted to take you out to dinner and try to make things up to you if at all possible, and I'm standing here now feeling like a goddamn idiot, so fuck it. If you don't want me around here, and if I'm just a pain in your ass, just tell me to leave, and I'm gone.
I want you to stop swearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Okay. Let's go to dinner. But if this is some part of your dogfight, I'll kill you.
No, Rose, it's not. I promise. It'll be just you and I at a nice joint having a nice dinner.
And we won't ever mention this dogfight again.
Roger that.
It'll just be like a regular date, just 2 regular people on a regular date.
Right.
Such a beautiful performance. I mean, what you do in that one scene to show the sort of character and to show the depth of that woman, of that girl. How did you come to understand her? I mean, what was your sense of that character when you looked at the screenplay and started to prepare for the film?
Yeah, very, very, very sweet. That was one of the main things. You know, one thing when I work on a character is to try to make a lot of room for them and to try to really listen and almost let them just tell me what to do. And of course, there's going to be a lot of chatter back and forth between me and the character. There almost has to be. And I find that if I work on characters that are a little tougher or harder, sometimes they're a little harder with me or on me, you know. So it's sometimes harder to get through. But she was so nice that she helped me. She helped me invite. She invited me in, you know. And if I doubted what I was doing or wasn't sure if I was serving her correctly, properly, she'd let me know, you know, it was okay. And so I have a real fond memory of her.
You talk about it almost like channeling.
A little bit, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's. It's definitely though making room for something. That's for sure. Yeah.
And then what happens when you're then acting with someone? In this case, River Phoenix. How much does that then change it?
Oh, well, that's the thing. I mean, the acting with somebody is really it. You know, it's, you know, sometimes I see actors doing certain prep that I feel creates a bubble, and I feel like the other actor can't get into that bubble, and it's all about this prep and these preconceived things and these props and stuff, and it's just a little bubble acting. And I think that that's the food, is the other actor. And so to try to listen, of course, I get caught up with my own fears, thoughts, and so on, try to get back and listen. You know, that's the whole thing, is just to try to keep getting back in the moment. And so it's really everything, getting that food from the other character.
And what was it like acting with River Phoenix at this point in both your lives?
It was great and painful. River was very uncomfortable with this role. You know, he's such a free spirit. You know, really was a hippie at heart, and so soulful. And had to play this Marine. And he was so uncomfortable, and he was young. So I don't think he understood, like, what the hell was going on. Like, why is he was kind of leaking out in weird ways, because he was like under the, you know, kind of under the control of this Marine, you know? And and I've noticed guys sometimes have a harder time if they're playing a role that's hard. I've seen guys have a harder time sort of navigating that uncomfortable terrain, you know, like, just not knowing who the hell's pulling at them or whatever. So River was in a lot of pain, actually, and but such a beautiful guy, and it was just, you know, really moving seeing him, as I haven't seen footage of him for a while.
Kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah, he was a real special soul, and particularly for a man. A lot of men can't go there, you know, can't do what he did.
You know, you talk about the characters in such a clear way, and yet in a way in Mystic Pizza, with that character, you know, telling him off and kind of claiming this sort of 80s feminism for herself, and here with Rose doing the same thing in a very early moment, in, you know, what's supposed to be 1963, and sort of a hippie before the hippies and a feminist before the feminism. You know, there's almost like you've got whole social movements going on in these characters, even beyond just the psychology. Does that change it for you, or do you just stick with the character?
No, the context means a lot, and I've worked with some directors, Nancy, Mary Herron, some others aren't coming to mind at the moment, but who have been very interested in the context, and are sure to get me, you know, books on that period and stuff, and because that relationship is so important with the director, I want to know, what are you trying to communicate? What's going on? And so I want to try to, you know, execute that vision, and so bring in, okay, that's right, the period's very important to them, blah, blah. Okay, so let's add this stroke on the canvas, you know, or the layer, whatever metaphor. Yeah, and I think, to me too, politics are very important, you know, and how can they not figure in? But it's just to make them personal. To make it personal and not distant political.
Well, you know, you've played so many women who really stand up for themselves. You know, women who might be seen because of the circumstances of the plot as victims, and yet they never are. That somehow you inhabit them. And I think that you've really been seen by a lot of audiences and a lot of critics as being a kind of feminist actor. But do you accept or reject that? Does that make any sense, or do you see that word as having currency?
I don't think the word has a lot of currency, unfortunately. But I would absolutely accept that. I mean, I don't think about that consciously, but I mean, I'm a feminist, so that's gonna probably come into my work on some level, and I feel that there's a lot of catching up story-wise to do, you know. We just haven't had the same kind of forum to tell stories. So I just feel that there's just a lot of women we need to get to know.
That's beautiful. That's great. All right. On that,
yes.
Here's another woman to get to know. Household Saints. Very, very different. We're not talking about political context necessarily anymore. But Household Saints, where We're coming into the film at a point when your character is very far on her journey and is not what some people would call quite in touch with this world. So if we can see the next clip.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Sant'Angelo. Good morning. Teresa is in her room. She's resting.
There's something wrong, I know it.
No, dear. It's just a touch of the flu. Thank you.
I contagious, so I gotta work tomorrow.
Papa, I need some advice.
About what?
Pinochle.
Pinochle? Is that what you do here with my money? You play pinochle?
We don't play for money, just points.
Well, that's a relief. Who you play with?
God the Father, Jesus, and Saint Therese.
You mean there's people here that think that they're God and Jesus and the other one?
No, I mean God and Jesus and Saint Therese.
Oh, this is crazy. I don't know. It's the craziest thing I ever heard. You play partners?
Girls against boys.
I should have known.
We got slaughtered, Papa. We didn't have a chance. Please don't tell anyone I said so. But the little flower isn't much of a pinochle player. She talked so low, you couldn't hear what she bid. God had to make her repeat everything 20 times. It's like she passed them every card they needed. Like she didn't want to win.
That's a saint for you.
I guess I'll never be a saint. I wanted to win. I played hard. But even if I'd been an expert, it wouldn't have mattered. Because God and Jesus drew nothing but high cards.
Well, honey, if it was God you were playing against, wouldn't you expect him to win?
I never expected to be playing pinochle with God.
I know what you mean.
And if I had, I would have expected him to play fair. If it hadn't been God, I would have sworn he was cheating.
Probably was.
Well, I found out later that he was. After the game was over, he asked the others to leave first. And on his way out, he stopped and he whispered real low so that the others couldn't hear him. And he said, Teresa, of all my great miracles, my favorite is tipping the scales and cheating at pinochle. That's what he said. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
Who knew it was a comedy?
Who knew?
Well, we're just sitting here amazed that it plays as a comedy taken out of context.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it.
Just as you'd assured us you weren't, a comic actress.
Yeah. No, comedian. Interesting, huh?
I mean, in context, this plays very tragically.
Yeah.
But wow, it really works.
Yeah.
So this wasn't your standard character motivation here. How do you prepare for a character like this? It's not about studying the period. It's not about, sort of channeling 80s feminism. How do you come to an understanding of a character like this?
Well, first of all, what's funny when you said it wasn't political? In a way, it was, because if you read about those saints, what they were doing was actually very political. A lot of them were extremely rebellious and feisty and didn't like being told what to do. And so they found, well, I'm going to go with this guy then. He's not here, first of all. And they actually ended up having a lot of autonomy in a way and freedom. Those saints were very strong women. So I actually read a lot about those saints, and I'd actually played the little flower on stage. and I'd already done a lot of reading up on saints. I love saints. And so I kind of was thinking a lot about them. And there, I guess what that is sort of that her believing, her really believing what she's saying, and it not being, not winking, at her. She's not winking at us. It's the sincerity was the thing, yeah.
When had you played the little flower on stage?
I played in La Mama downtown. Increase was this opera thing, and I played the little flower and then some, and so I had a whole, experience with the hagiography stuff. Yeah.
And with the mysticism of that
Exactly.
those women, I think, really saw as their one path.
Yeah. And the passion that they had was amazing, and the belief and the, just all that. I just was thinking about that a lot during the preparation. The total passion.
Well, what I was thinking about watching this is your performance and how phenomenal it is. And, I often think that people don't actually know the difference between good acting and bad acting. This is one of my beliefs, no offense. And I think that often what people think is good acting is actually bad acting. Like it pops out. Yeah. And they think, oh yeah, look at that, Or sometimes it's, accents or gaining 40 pounds or sometimes it's somebody they want to be, like, oh yeah, or somebody they want to go to bed with, like, oh yeah. Or sometimes it's the screenplay, like, oh,
Yeah.
And so I wonder, like, what is your kind of standard of acting? Looking at that and looking at what you've done and what other people have done.
I think honesty would be one of the first things. Earning. If you're gonna have a limp or something to genuine. I guess it's genuine. Genuine, honoring. That's when I feel like the performance, Transamerica, Felicity Huffman, I haven't seen a performance like that for a while. I really felt that she was just absolutely in service to that character. She got out of her way. It wasn't about her. So I guess that honesty and honoring, yeah. Mm-hmm. And commitment, probably.
Have you ever been in a position where you felt that what a director wanted you to do was in conflict with your following that kind of mission?
Or
would you just never get yourself into that?
No,
situation?
maybe. When I think I've gotten into that situation when I felt that when they were asking me not to tell the truth or something, or didn't want me to tell the truth on some level, and I think that's when I've gotten, having a problem here, Yeah, but that hasn't happened much, thank God. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes with acting it can be like, like the soldiers, like, just following orders here, as opposed to going to those depths.
Exactly, yeah, I don't like to, I like to follow orders, but by the time I'm following orders, it's because we're both in sync with each other. So I'm willingly, I'm not, but that's what I sort of felt with Donald. He was asking me to follow orders, and I was like, hey, I've got a problem here,
I've got a better line. Or else it's like, the industry made me do it. It's like
right.
This was then the second film you made with Nancy Savoca.
Uh-huh.
So had you been in touch, did this come right after Dogfight? Was she talking to you about this? Did she know this was going to be the next thing she was going to do?
I think so. It felt very natural, the progression to Household Saints.
Mm-hmm. And Household Saints was a novel, right, by Francine Prose?
Uh-huh.
Was she involved at all?
Not really, but she was around, and she's great. Yeah.
So she allowed you to just have her character?
Yeah, she gave it away.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It's, Nancy Savoca, to me, is a really important person in the independent film world. And I wonder, have you stayed in touch with her? Do your lives cross at all since these two films?
Well, we sort of had, I love Nancy, she's great, but we were going to do that Janis Joplin project. We had the Janis Joplin rights for like 7 years, and Francine worked on a draft, Nancy, I worked on a draft, and somehow the rights got taken out from under us in a very strange way, I'm not sure how, and it was always a problem anyways, because it was sort of, I guess there was already a shift happening, and I felt like people weren't going to give us the money to do the Janice. You know, they wanted, at one point, Demi Moore, you know, just like, already I was starting to sense a shift, and in the independent, but I thought, you know, I'll fight for this. I can totally fight for this, you know, and because I had Nancy behind me and stuff. But then when we lost the rights, I think all of us just sort of felt, you know, but 7 years working on it. I just had a bad taste, and so we haven't really seen each other since then.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's us. I think it's just some situation, and it just, and then now we'll come back together when it's time, you know. Yeah.
So the mid-90s, you see, is really a time when the independent film world starts really shifting.
Yeah.
And people start seeing it as a place to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Pulp Fiction changed a lot of things. I do. I think there was a lot of things, but I think that was one, you know, where I realized, wait, they put out a little money, made back a lot. Uh-oh, they're onto something. Yeah. And it's hip and it's cool and, you know, all that stuff. Yeah.
And yet, 95, 96, you get a lot of really powerful roles. And
but yeah, I think it started to shift in 96. 96, 97. Yep. That's when it started to shift.
Well, we're going to look at a few things from right around this period.
Okay.
So maybe we'll look at one, we'll talk some more about these issues, and then we'll just keep going.
Sure.
So for a complete change of pace, an amusing change of pace from Household Saints, we go to Abel Ferrara and a clip from The Addiction. I know there's probably, we met an Addiction fan today, right here at the Walker. So for those of you who may not know The Addiction, we're coming in, you know, maybe 2/3 of the way into the film. Lily's character, Kathleen Conklin, is a PhD student at a university suspiciously like NYU, and she's a philosophy PhD. And she suddenly gets some sort of unexpected help with getting through her doctorate when she becomes a vampire. And what kind of comment this is on academia, now that I am one in there, I don't know. But in this sequence, she has just brought her thesis advisor, this faculty member, back to her apartment, and he's really pleased because he thinks he's going to get some transgressive grad student action. And we're coming in on him, looking around her apartment and beginning to wonder why all the mirrors are covered. You've probably seen enough vampire movies to know why they're covered, but he doesn't seem to know what's in store. So, okay.
So do you want something to drink?
What do you got?
Anything you want. Hold on a minute. I got something.
Independency is a marvelous thing. It does more for the soul than any formulation of doctoral material. Indulge me. Give me your arm.
Now, there's actually lots of scenes of Lili covered in fake movie blood and, you know, baring her fangs. But I picked this relatively modest one, I think, just because I love the humor of the in and out lines, and your line about doctoral research. So how did Abel Ferrara get you to do this role?
Oh God, no problem. I was so excited. Abel's insane, but at that point there was still a rhyme to his reason. I'm not sure if there is now, but there was then, and he's so great. He is truly an independent filmmaker, and his spirit is so fantastic. He talks to you through the shots. Sometimes they're unusable because his voice is over all the scenes, you know, but he's like, yeah, and giving it to you, and so much food, and, you know, and he doesn't do a shot list, and he feels the shot out, and if it's wrong, he tears it apart, and, you know, stealing shots in vans, and no permits. It was a great experience. I love Abel, and we knew we were losing audience members as we were continuing to shoot. We knew, like, we kind of thought there was 5 guys in the Angelica, an independent house in New York, with sunglasses. They were our audience, and just each week we were like, we just lost one of them. We just lost one of them. But so that's the thing. It's even though maybe I didn't like all the things in the movie, whatever, it was his movie, and he made what he wanted to make, and I love that, you know.
There's a great scene where you're stalking this grad student in the library, and
right,
I just couldn't figure out a way to make it work for tonight. But you get all of these great lines about, you know, philosophy and anthropology, and so how did you prepare for this role?
How did I prepare? I actually watched a lot of some like old footage of junkies. Actually, I had to go like to the Museum of Radio and Broadcasting, and for some reason they had some old movies of the '60s on junkies, because she was essentially a junkie, a drug addict, and then actually what really helped was a documentary on lions and tigers and feasting, and I was like, oh, and I said, Abel, did you see this? And that we kind of recreated that in the movie, The Big Feast, because she was a predator, you know, a predator and an addict. So I combined tiger and junkie. You
did. It's great. I mean, you make her a very believable character. I have to say, I look sort of with some fear at grad students now. Now, between these two, between doing Household Saints and doing this, you actually made 2 films with Altman. You made a lot of other films. We don't have clips here from Shortcuts or Pret-a-Porter, and I guess Shortcuts is being shown in the retrospective. But that's obviously a very different experience than doing these kinds of much smaller indie films. I wonder if you could just say anything about that, what it was like for you and how you feel about it now, looking back at it.
The indie films?
Well, no, the ones with Altman, actually.
Well, actually, Altman felt independent in spirit. You know, maybe a bigger budget, bigger cast, but independent in spirit, totally. What would feel different is The Haunting would feel different than
Ransom.
Than these, or Ransom. That's where it gets different, you know, where it just feels more like a corporation or more just like a very efficient machine. And whereas these indies just feel, you know, it's just, I don't know, I just love them. I just love them. Yeah, but Altman, I mean, I learned a lot from Altman. I loved working with Altman. I really did.
What do you think you learned when you said that?
What I loved was, I loved how he he'd arrange everything without anybody knowing it, and then step back and sort of let it flow. It was as if he was just creating this party and hadn't done any work. He was just enjoying it. But yet he had done so much work. And it was the creating, but none of us saw how he was creating that whole atmosphere. That's one thing I loved too. For instance, one thing he did was he said, "Oh, you know, Lily and Tom are in the Tom Waits and Lily Tomlin are in the trailer. Yeah, just go in there. I'll meet you in a second." It's like, "Oh, okay." And they were rehearsing, and he threw me into their rehearsal, and I was in it. I didn't know what the hell to do because didn't know who my character was even, and they were like talking to me in character. So I just went right into it. I was like, "Oh, Jesus, shit." And I did it, and then I peeked out, and Bob had the earphones on, and he'd been listening to the whole improv, so he knew exactly, what he was doing. I love how, he had built this arm to go on the camera, so that the camera would balance itself, and so it would find its own marks. So you didn't have to get to this mark, which would by just having to get to this mark, you're already kind of killing a spontaneous feeling, and so the camera would find you. You didn't have to worry about doing this. And everyone was individually mic'd, so you didn't have to worry about stepping on line. So just the freedom that he created was amazing. And I learned a lot just about giving actors freedom, love, and kind of a space to just grow. They do wonders.
He must give great dinner parties.
He does. He gives fantastic dinner parties. He's like a magician that way. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what about working with John Waters, since we're not seeing Pecker here?
Yeah.
How did you find that?
Well, John's fantastic too. I mean, John's actually a lot more structured than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be kind of crazy set, and but it was actually very shotless and very clear footage. I mean, the camera work is very clear, and the lines say the lines because he's a writer too. And I found working with John like really structured, really clear. Fantastic, and I guess it has to be because the world is so zany that you have to anchor it down somehow. So he's so wise. I love John.
There's this whole choir boy side of John, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I want to talk to you about, but I wanted to get one more clip under our belt, and then we're going to sit back and have more of a conversation. And that's I Shot Andy Warhol. Mm-hmm. And now you make this with Mary Harron in this exact period you're talking about. It comes out in 1996, which you're describing as this pivot line after which, nothing is the same. And you're playing Valerie Solanas, who is as crazy as Teresa and as spunky as JoJo, and seems to wrap up a lot of the characters that you've played up until that point. So let's look at that, and then we're going to talk about it.
Okay. Stevie, please, you gotta let me in. Stevie, it's Valerie. Stevie, please. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, Stevie, I gotta stay.
No.
Oh, thank God you're home.
So Gerodius must have sold Andy the film rights to the Scum Manifesto. And that's why Gerodius won't print the manifesto until he makes me sign another contract. Him and Andy, they want to own Scum. They want to own the whole thing. Yeah, they're in this together. And Gerodius, he has me all tied up with that greasy contract. And Andy's already stolen the play. Yeah, I'm never gonna get that back. Yeah, they have everything. No, I'm never gonna be free. I'm never gonna be free then. Never gonna be free. Never gonna be free.
The fucking shit! Valerie, what the fuck is that? Get that out of here!
I'm not doing it.
Shit, get out!
I'm not.
Get out!
Valerie,
I'm sick of this shit!
No, please, I don't want to go out there.
Valerie, get out!
Please, Stevie, I can't go out there!
Get out!
Please, Stevie!
You fucking full of shit! Get out, you fucking lunatic! Jesus! God!
Irrational men want to be squashed, stepped on, crushed and crunched, treated as the curs, the filth that they are, have their repulsiveness confirmed. Sick, irrational men will attempt to defend themselves when they see scum barreling down on them. Men who are rational, however, won't kick or struggle or raise a distress and fuss, but will just sit back, relax, enjoy the show and ride the waves to their demise.
Oh, hi, Valerie. What can I do for you?
Is Gerodius here?
No, didn't he tell you he's in Montreal? He won't be back until the weekend.
Okay. When he comes back, you tell him I'm gonna kill him.
So there's a lot to say about this, but first I have to ask, where did that walk come from? That
Who the hell knows by that point? Jesus, I mean, that was, you know, she was sort of there, sort of in there, but she didn't destroy me. Yeah.
She tested how tough you were.
She did. We weren't sure at the beginning.
Because I love that walk when you're rushing from one place to the other. You know, I was looking up some stuff about Valerie, and you know, when she was on trial for shooting Warhol, Ty Grace Atkinson, who was the head of the New York chapter of Now, helped get her a lawyer, and they got Florence Kennedy, and Florence Kennedy talks about how electrified women were by the Scum Manifesto, and I had written about the Scum Manifesto for the Village Voice back in the early 90s, saying that in a special section on out-of-print masterpieces. And I really loved it. And other people have seen her as the model for hothead paisan. And I wonder, like, you know, what was your view of her as you were working on this? You know, was she a prophet? Was she a maniac? What parts of her did you decide to access?
I mean, that was the hardest preparation on that one, and the longest, because Mary had done like 7 years of research. There was really nothing written about Valerie, maybe just 2 books, Female Perversions and Daring to be Bad. That was essentially all she was in. And Mary's research, and I had the Scum Manifesto, which turned out to really be one of the keys, because I found that what she said about men, what she said about society, and what she said about herself became keys into her psyche. She was so complicated, I couldn't figure out, in a way, she wasn't real to me until the last night. And it's when first of all, what came to me was the saying, clear vision in a crippled psyche, and that she had a sense of humor. And those were the 2 things. The night before I started shooting, I was, okay, I'm okay. I know. The linchpin, those were the linchpins I needed. The sense of humor, that's the thing that I'd been missing in the preparation. It was all so serious, and so I couldn't imagine her eating breakfast. I couldn't imagine her anything. She wasn't real to me. But when I realized, like someone said about the Scum Manifesto, like, Valerie, is it really all, are you really that, do you feel that strongly about it? She goes, are you kidding? It's a joke. So she had a sense of humor about the whole thing, you know, and about herself, except when, of course, paranoid schizophrenia stops being funny at a certain point, of course, and then of course she's just good old paranoid schizophrenic, and that's, of course, and then I read up on that and figured out what goes on in that with that.
So in the end, if only there'd been a Xerox machine, Warhol might not have been shot. Because you have to remember, she shoots Warhol in 1968. Yeah. And there aren't really Xerox machines yet, so that he has her only copy of the play. You know, right. She had like 2 carbons or something, and he has the last one. Yeah. So I always think if there had been Xerox machines, he would have been safe.
You know, she's absolutely mad, but I don't think she should be blacked out of history because of her madness. I think that there were other things too. I don't condone what she did at all, but I think there were other things too that she was pushing through but she was too harsh, and so she might have paved the way and then gotten out of the picture, and then there was a little road for some others to travel.
Well, there have been lots of wonderfully brave and society-altering mad women. I mean, Joan of Arc still gets claimed, for instance. So why not Valerie? You know? I mean, you know, something that fascinates me is that this is set in 1968, this day that we just saw. Now, 1963 is when Dogfight is set, and look what happens to women in this little period here. And I love thinking about her, about you playing her after you've played Rose, and what those two women would have ever had to say or not say to each other. Can you ever imagine all your characters in a room?
No, I haven't. That's an interesting one. I think I'd feel like Sybil at the end when all the characters come out. Not ready for that yet when I'm older.
Mary Harron had come out of documentary, and she'd done a lot documentaries on the factory and on Warhol and on Jasper Johns. And did that make a difference when you were working with her? Were you able to tell that that's where she was coming from?
Yeah, her whole sense of verisimilitude and authenticity and research and details were all so there. I loved her documentarian background. Loved it. Really made it a great experience.
You know, you make this film, and right around the same time you make Girlstown with Jim McKay. Were you doing them at the same time? What was the sequence?
I had been improvising Girlstown for a year. We were going over to Jim's apartment and improvising it, and then he would transcribe the tapes. And then we went over the script together and came up with a final script. Then I did Warhol, and then I think like a week after Warhol, I went right into Girlstown.
Wow. And you sort of co-wrote Girlstown, didn't you?
Improv, to be fair. I mean, it was in it, but yeah, we improv'd it, yeah.
All of you?
Yeah, all of us. Jim just put the video camera on, Mike Lee style, and just watched us.
And this is a sad thing. We don't have a clip from Girlstown tonight because there is no print of Girlstown to get a scene from. And this is something to really be aware of, what's happening to films right now, especially films that were shot in 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
This sort of, you know, elephant of a technology, white elephant of a technology. And so it is going to be shown here in the retrospective from Jim McKay's personal beta masters. But there's not a clip. And for those of you who've seen it, Lili has this fantastic character who really inspires the girls around her to defend themselves and to exact revenge, really. How did that story come out of the improv process?
You know, Jim might have given us a couple of situations to work on, you know, that he was guiding us towards. Women, girls with a friend that had committed suicide, and then we found out that she had been raped, I think, and that led to her suicide. So that right there is, you know, gave us plenty to do.
You know, violence in films is so often enacted on women rather than enacted by them. And I wonder how you see the kind of violence that these characters in these two films in '96 are kind of deploying, how you see that in a social way. Like, does something happen from having that on screen, seeing women kind of taking these kinds of actions, whether justified or in the case of Girlstown, or unjustified perhaps in the case of Valerie Solanas' Demons? I mean, do you think there's a kind of social negotiation going on there when something like that goes into a film and out into the audience and into the world?
It didn't feel like it. I mean, I'm sure with other things there is a social negotiation, but on those examples, it didn't feel like that.
It just felt personal to the character?
Yeah, yeah, it did. It did, and how it ripples is, you know, I guess out of my hands. I mean, I guess just do my job and then trust it's gonna fall where it's gonna fall and happen the way it's gonna happen.
Do audiences usually see the characters the way that you do, or are you ever surprised by what comes back at you, whether from critics or viewers?
I'm surprised sometimes. Like, I don't usually read my own reviews, and I talk. Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, it's weird. I mean, sometimes, yeah, there's always kind of like, it happens more with theater because it's so immediate, that I find after a play coming out into the lobby, that's where I find stuff gets a little funny. Like, either someone says something and it's sort of confusing, or it's kind of too negative, or I don't know, and I'm vulnerable because a lot of actors are vulnerable right when they come off stage, and anyway, I find it with theater more, just that I'm more sensitive to what's said after the play. Movies, because there's time that lapses, it's almost maybe I've got more protection or more distance.
You know, in 96, I want to come back and ask you about theater, but in 1996, 10 years ago, when these films are both at Sundance, I Shot Andy Warhol and Girls Town, you get this special jury award for acting, and you're sort of like, you know, the goddess of indie cinema. How does that moment seem? How did it feel then? What does it mean now?
Well, it was great, but I also knew, I just had a sense, you know, crowned today, dethroned tomorrow, you know, that sort of thing. I just had a sense, so I was very happy about the award, and it was an honor, but I also knew that, and sure enough, there was someone the next year, I think it was Parker Posey, who was queened indie film, whatever. So I knew it was of the moment, and, you know, I guess it's good that I just love what I do, and I know I'm going to be doing it a long time. And so I think a lot of this stuff happens, and maybe it just feels like, oh, okay, you know. But this is got a long way to go, you know.
But I think for a lot of us, that moment was important because of what you represent in film, because of the way that you've been talking about your roles and your commitment to it. And that maybe it was also a guarantee for us that independent film still was sort of on its path. If you were there and doing them.
Yeah, for that, yeah,
But you were just talking about theater, and how different is it for you working in film and working in theater? Like you talked about theater being what was there first, and then I know you've still been involved in theater a lot in New York. The three things that I found were Naked Actors, New Group Theater, and 52nd Street Project, all of which you've been involved with more and less at different times. How different are these worlds? What is your life like in the theater versus your life in film?
The film preparation feels very isolating and solitary, and here, but hopefully also get up and do stuff and physicalize stuff. But it's like, you know, you're hoping you get I'm hoping that I'm in alignment with the character, and then, well, for instance, I'm about to start a movie on Monday, and it's sort of like, and you start filming, and it's like, you know, you just plug your nose and jump and hope that the character's there, you know. Theater, I get to fall down and get up through a month of rehearsals, and I get to find the character in a really kind of safe way and with a lot of kind of feedback. And it's not as scary way to find the character. Then sure, stage, then of course going on live, then that gets that's another thing, another technique. I find it very strengthening, theater. But film, I love the technique of film too. Film forever fascinates me. I mean, I don't think I'll ever get all the little tools, you know, gathered for film, you know. There's always more to figure out. Film, while I'm filming, for instance, through the day, what I find very interesting is how to concentrate and how to keep the energy just right. You know, let's say I've got a lot of energy in this first scene we're doing of the day. But let's say it's going to be long, a lot of coverage. How do I keep that energy? How do I kind of dance with that energy, you know, without blowing it all in one shot, you know? Anyways, it's just kind of a mystery how to just keep it going, you know?
And yet you've had this terrific success recently in theater with Aunt Dan and I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Aunt Dan and Lemon. That you got an Obie Award and a Drama League Award, and I know you're still continuing to do theater. Are the audiences radically different? How do you relate to the audiences? You know, what I always think about is, well, there's no close-ups in theater, and a huge number of the clips we saw tonight were close-ups. How do you relate differently to audiences in the two?
Well, I like off-Broadway or off-Broadway, and so the houses are more intimate. And so I feel like I don't have to work so hard at getting to the back of the house, you know, because it's a smaller house. And so in a way, I have a close-up sort of already operating in a way. And that's nice, because I don't know if I could do kind of indicating, you know, to the way back. I don't think that would feel so good. And the directors I've worked with want honesty anyway, but you know, it's funny, the directors, I think that they're also thinking about what's comparable to the close-up. That's sort of on them in a way. You know, how they're gonna block it, how they're gonna convey that.
So this is a bigger house than you're usually in? for theater?
About this, I guess. Maybe a little smaller, yeah.
You know, I have to, I was going to resist asking this question, but I can't. 8 years ago, you did that outrageous conversation with Sharon Stone in the New York Times Magazine. Did people see that? With Sharon Stone giving career tips to Lili? Were you so after that conversation, did you start going to premieres and wearing low-cut gowns and following up some of those
She told
tips?
me to wear a low-cut dress and put some makeup on or something, something like that. No, I didn't. I didn't, no. But I'm in a pretty dress, and I mean, I found my own way, you know, my own way to be feminine, and, you know, I can do it my own way, you know? It just took some time, that's all, to figure it out.
Did you have any input into who you got to have the conversation with for the Times?
No. First of all, the Times, you don't tell them who you want to talk to, and no. And I think, frankly, the interviewer was smitten with Sharon, and so I felt like she just didn't mediate at all. And I didn't know how to stop Sharon. And I just felt like maybe I gave in and maybe that, I just felt battling wouldn't have worked though. You know, there's sometimes you have to make a choice, and I just thought, you know what? I think she's bigger than me right now. I don't think I'm a match. In a certain way, not in that forum, maybe downtown. But we
Come
were
to
uptown.
my neighborhood,
Yeah, we were on the
Sharon.
Upper East Side. It was like, come on downtown. Then we'll talk. Yeah.
I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, we've got a treat for you. At the very last minute, focus relented, and
Picture House.
Well,
excuse me.
But IFC.
Okay.
IFC.
IFC's doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Picture House.
Picture House.
Picture House.
Okay.
Factotum IFC.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Picture House. Thank you, Lili. Okay. Picture House relented and said that we could show you one scene from Betty Page after all. Yeah. So one final fabulous Lili moment from Mary Harron's upcoming Betty Page.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Hi, I got your name from Maxie. My name is Betty Page. I'm a model.
Oh, yeah, she told me about you. Just 1 minute. Yeah, we got some nice William Holden color, 8x10. Yeah, Sturck Ranger we got, yeah. Just come to the store. Anything you want, we got, okay? All right. So, Maxie told you about us.
Yes, she said there would be some unusual costumes to put on.
Okay, great. Why don't you go right on upstairs and talk to my brother while I close up here, okay?
Law Studios, featuring the largest variety of popular model photos in the world. Well, what are you interested in? Films, cartoons, pictorials? We got some great new pictorials and very high quality. Just a moment. Hi, I'm Irving Claw. You hungry? We got some sandwiches over there, some beautiful sliced brisket.
Oh, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. Dressing room's through there. No more boudoir beauties and high heels. What about some fighting girl movies? No? Bound in Rubber, Pleasure Parade, and Fearful Ordeal in Restraint Land. Now, that last one's an excellent seller because of the quality of the poses, which, in my personal opinion, are among the most strenuous bondage photos ever made.
Whoa. Anyone walks in these old shoes is beyond me.
Here, Fatico. Jack, give her a hand.
Oh, hello.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
These shoes are kind of unusual.
We got a lot of requests for them, don't we, Irving?
Sure do. 8-inch stiletto heels, black seam stockings, 12 different poses. High heels are very popular. There you go.
Okay, sit her down there, Jack. All right, Betty. Let's go. Beautiful, Betty.
Oh, I think we got a little problem. Something's peeking out.
Oh, yep. We better put another pair over them. Yeah, we gotta put these over the ones you got on. These will be okay, huh? Yeah, oh, as if the customers care. It's the shoes they want. Shoes and boots, boots and shoes. I can't get enough of them.
Why?
Don't ask. Takes all types to make a world.
What kind of types?
You see, the customers who want this stuff, they're very respectable, very high-quality people. Doctors, lawyers, diplomats, even a judge. They're not people like us. The pressures they've got. They're not your average Joe. So what if they want something that seems a little strange, right? If it makes them happy, sure. Sometimes they come into the store and I can see they want something different. Irving says I can spot them a mile off.
Oh, she can. She's got an instinct.
If I think it's shoes they want, I'll pull out a movie star, Lana Turner, let's say, with a nice pair of high heels. And I'll point to them and say, something like this, maybe. Oh, the look on their face, like they're so relieved I understand. And then I start pulling out the special stuff. Look at the time, we gotta go. Jack, let's put some music on.
Okay.
Let's put some music. You like music, Betty?
Oh, yeah.
You okay, Betty? The shoes hurting you?
Oh, I'm fine. It's fine. Turn your backside to us so we can see the stocking seams.
Nice, nice. Wonderful, Betty. To me, turn to me. Great.
Nice, right? Just get into it, feel it. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Oh, you're so happy.
She's great. Oh, that's right, honey. Do that cha-cha. Give me that. Great, Betty. Gorgeous.
Okay, well, we're trying to stay on schedule here. So I asked just one or two things, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. I have to say, though, you made one comment just before we saw that. What are you starting to shoot?
I'm going to shoot a movie called Starting Out in the Evening, and it's with Andrew Wagner's directing it, who did The Talent Given Us, a little independent that he did. And it's great. It's just great, because it's great. I did Factotum. Then I did this movie called The Secret in Montreal that had a nice spirit to it. And then this one feels like just a throwback to the 90s. It's $500,000 budget and just a good spirit. And Andrew Wagner has total autonomy, so it's great.
And this was a throwback to Mary Harron.
And then,
her
Mary.
fascination with this crazy pop culture past.
Yeah.
And was this a real character, Paula Claw?
She was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She existed, she and her brother?
Yeah, they really did.
The avant-garde smut peddlers of New York.
But very, very regular. That's what's so interesting about them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like us. Okay, I think you've got enough to go on now, so maybe somebody's going to have a few questions if we can bring up the house lights and begin to see what you have to say. The mics are going around, and we'll just have a conversation for a bit.
Hi, thanks. Your career seems so, your performances seem so effortless, and the roles that you've taken are so colorful. A lot of good times over the years. It looks like your career's been. I was wondering if you could share maybe the times that you've found the film business to be not so savory, or just something to that effect.
The past 6 years. The past 6 years, I've been a little bummed out. But you know, it's like I've also been realizing, you know, I've been doing this a while and things change and it ebbs and it flows. But I felt very frustrated. I felt like my frustration reached a peak, and actually I adapted a book and wrote a screenplay because I got so frustrated. About a year ago, I feel that the pressures on the filmmaker are so intense, and they're given a little list of just a few actors that essentially the money people have given to them, and that's it. And it just feels, I was feeling so coming up against just all these blocks, you know, that the financial blocks became so just frustrating, just so frustrating. And I wrote this thing also because I realized, you know, it essentially shoots in a backyard, and I think I could shoot it on digital, and I think I can do it for very little. And that's probably when independence started to, you know, just Cassavetes needing to just shoot his movie, you know, and I'm feeling like some of these directors either they do need some money or they do need it on film, which I totally understand and respect. And the only way they can get the money is if they get certain people, and it's just frustrating.
Do you think it's also that different people are becoming directors now?
The different people? Yeah, that's probably
they're in
part
it for
of it
something
too.
different.
That might be part of it too. That's just felt so, yeah, discouraging.
I have two questions. The first one is, when you get a script or a director approaches you, what makes you decide what it is that you're going to, whether you're going to say yes or no? And the other part of the question is, how do you negotiate the money, and how much do you charge? Especially in an independent.
Well, the first question is, the answer is, when I get a script, I hear who's attached to it. And if it's an unknown, if it's a first-time director, now I get a DVD, because DVDs are a lot more handy now. Like I'd gotten, this woman adapted who's the great, memory. I'm blanking on it. Linda Berry, great Linda Berry adaptation. And it's her first feature. But some of the DVDs were some of her shorts, and I just knew I loved her shorts. They were fantastic. And I loved the script, and then I met her, and so it's, again, I guess it's really the director. That's the thing. But I can love the script, and then, yeah, I love the script, now let's meet the director. But if the meeting doesn't go with the director, then the love for the script's gonna diminish, And so it's the director, I would say. And negotiating money, okay, let's say, the next thing I'm doing, I don't even know what my salary is. In fact, I had to sign some contract or something, and I said to my accountant, I said, do you know what I'm getting paid on this? And he's like, no, and I said, I don't either. And frankly, when they're that low, I'd rather just give it back, because the production needs it more than me in a way. And theater's been very little. Again, I give the check back because it's so little.
So that leaves television.
That leaves Tylenol. I'm the voice of Tylenol. And I say thank God for voiceovers.
You are the voice of Tylenol?
Yeah. And I say thank God, because
Buy Tylenol.
Yeah. Because the films that I love, they just don't pay. And that's the deal. So there's no negotiating.
First of all, thank you so much for giving so many women characters a voice. It's just wonderful, and seeing you talk tonight just affirms so much of why I love you and your work. I was wondering why you felt you're such a fearless person. Why does comedy make you afraid? Oh. But you're such a funny person, and it's such a dark comedy that you do. But then you said that you were afraid of comedy, and I thought that was an interesting thing to say for you.
Of a Saturday Night Live. Right?
Yeah, well, I think I do love comedy, and I think my comedy would come out of sincerity. Like it would be funny if I played it sincere, but I don't think of myself as like a comic actress. I think the comedy in Chicago scared me with that Second City world, and that comedy club world scared me, and I. First of all, as a woman, it's just not friendly. I didn't feel friendliness, and I just felt like I could have gotten eaten alive if it was just a really intense world, and so I guess that's what I meant, like a comedian. But maybe I am deprecating myself more than I realize with the comedic ability. So I will take that note and try to get some self-esteem there and change that around. Because I like to laugh. I love comedies. I like to do funny things, so I'd like more of it. Thank you.
Now that the lines between cinema and television are blurring, what was it like playing a character that you didn't know exactly what was going to happen to her versus prepping for a film role?
It's not for me. I mean, the big lesson I learned on that one was embracing the unknown, which is always handy and good to kind of make sure, okay, unknown, Yeah, but I can do that also just on a daily basis. I don't have to, be a part of that. I think TV's great, and I'm open to it, totally open to it. I could see doing it again. And there are muscles that were getting flexed, and I wouldn't mind flexing again, but I think I would have made different choices if I'd known, you know? Because for me, a character is like a house of cards. I mean, granted, I want to always stay open to the character. I don't want to come up with a very strict character and then there's no malleability. There has to be. But it's a very, you know, delicate process. And, you know, there are some big things that would have really changed my psyche, my choices, and so on. And I just don't think it's where I get really excited, you know? That's all.
For those of you who are mystified, I assume we're talking about 6 Feet Under, and just in case.
Just in case. Yeah.
But you know, I think everything you've said tonight is so much about honoring your characters and staying true to your characters. I think that must be hard to do when you don't know what's going to happen to your character in the next week or the next season.
Yeah, I mean, like I write out, like I found with good scripts and really good characters that they break down into like 4 basic aspects to their journey. And I pretty much name each aspect of their journey, kind of find one word to sum it up. And then within that journey are all these little beats, you know, and I write out a graph because I found with Independence we were moving so fast and shaking around, and that I found I had to anchor down and be like, okay, I'm in this aspect. Okay, and I started making copies for the directors. And so we'd both sort of look at our sheet and figure out where we were. So I work, you know, I mean, like, that's very different than the TV and not knowing what the hell's happening, you know, week to week, which is good for me, I guess, to shake things up and stuff. So don't regret it.
Thanks for coming to Minneapolis first.
My pleasure.
And we loved you in 6 Feet Under, by the way. We illegally downloaded all 5 seasons just for you. On that note, you mentioned that in the past 6 years you felt kind of depressed about just the nature of the business, which I guess I can understand. Do you see any reason for hope, just because there is a new distribution technique? And we forget that film is a technical revolution. The whole art of film is a technical process. Do you see any hope in that there's now a digital distribution network that would make a lot of the serious business obsolete?
What do you think is the digital distribution network?
Well, I really love shows like Monk.
Yeah.
And Battlestar Galactica, which is the best space opera that I've seen in years.
Yeah.
And I get all that off iTunes. It's commercial free and it's material. Do you have any hope for digital distribution, or do you even care?
No, I totally care. I think that there was a lot more hope about the digital movement, like 5 years ago, and it felt like it didn't quite take off. And so I found that, did you have a lot of hope for digital?
Well, you know, I think every time a change like this comes, everyone gets really hopeful.
Yeah.
And people get really utopian. And like, this technology is going to change it all.
Yeah.
And then for about 1 minute, it's wide open. And then all the usual players come back in and own it.
And
so I get, you know, it's hard for me to get really excited again. But sure, I mean, I unfortunately remember in the 1980s when home video came out and all these video stores opened everywhere. Everyone was all excited, and they said, this is going to completely decentralize it. And they said, you're going to be able to go to the video store in your neighborhood and see what your neighbor was shooting last week.
Yeah.
Haha. Do you ever see that at your neighborhood video store? So it's like the literary press story all over again. It's all about, you know, the gatekeepers of the distribution.
Yeah.
And so maybe, yeah, maybe. But then again, maybe not.
I'd love if every movie had the same amount of money for advertising, sort of like a presidential campaign thing. Then I'd like to see what we'd see, you know? I think the distribution is where things need to be revamped, and I'm very excited for what breakthroughs we might have there. And film-wise, I was very excited by the Dogma film movement. That was something that I started to feel excited by, and stuff that's been coming out of there.
I like this idea of a campaign finance reform act for the movie.
I know, but could you imagine, like, shopping around Hollywood? No way.
Love it, love it. Let's you know, start circulating the petitions. Yeah.
I'm wondering what kind of films you watch yourself.
I have to say, I am embarrassed. I have not seen many films. I just started to see films in the past 5-7 years or so. I'm very behind. Documentaries, I love documentaries. I see those, and my favorite theaters in the city are the Film Forum and Lincoln Plaza. And let's see, let me think of the last thing that I ran out to see. I remember that Iranian movie, I think it was Iranian, White Balloon, years ago. I mean, I remember that was just something I was like, I've got to see that, I've got to see it. I saw Promised Land, was that Promised?
Promised Land?
Yeah, the one that was just out about the Palestinian.
Paradise Now?
Paradise Now, excuse me. Ooh, Promised Land, whoa. Like I ran out to that, if that gives you an idea of.
Darwin's Nightmare. Darwin's Nightmare.
Darwin's Nightmare documentary. I love documentaries. That's what I really find myself, I'm there. I'm at the documentary.
Okay, now I'm going to follow up on this question because, I was looking around at what people had said about you, and there was this great quote. Very nice. From Index magazine in 1998, someone named Steve Lafreniere wrote that you were a performer of almost occult empathy. I love that. I thought, I wish I'd written that. But then, what caught my attention was that he went on to interview you, and you told him, it was 1998, that you had no TV or VCR. Is this true?
I finally had to get a unit because a VCR TV unit because I couldn't get to friends' houses to see the movies of the director that I was going to meet, and so I finally had to just pick up a little thing, but it's not hooked up. It's hidden. It's covered. The reason why I don't watch TV is because I probably couldn't turn the damn thing off. I mean, even last night in the hotel, I got home, I was exhausted, and National Geographic had on a dolphin thing. Because did you guys see the dolphin in the walker? The oracle, and then the dolphin documentary was on. I couldn't believe it because we were talking to the dolphin oracle for a while last night, and then this dog whisperer guy came on, and I just couldn't. So that's the thing, and I was exhausted, and so I was like, and that's why I don't have a TV. It's not self-righteous; it's just self-saving, but now I have the computer and I can see DVDs. I have them, but I don't always stick them in. That's the thing. Once I'm watching, I'm fine, but I don't seem to get there or make it happen. And I don't know why. I don't know, some weird resistance.
Maybe you have to go to film festivals, see them there.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Or you can invite her back to the Walker for a special viewing opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, unless there's something else pressing, I think we're going to, down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
A couple of things and choose. You've talked a lot about the preparation. I get that you are really intense about that, and about the occult empathy. I guess I'm wondering about the moment when you're there. How much you're lost, how much you're following a character, or if you can talk any at all about that. And the other question is just maybe if you could name one or two of the stories that you'd like told of women. And thanks.
Thank you. That question of how much am I there, how much am I not there, that's maybe one of those questions that won't get answered, something to always try for. And that's one reason why trying to have a good relationship with my character, because for instance now, of course, I'm doubting what I'm about to do. I don't think I have her at all. I'm nervous. I'm extra nervous on this one because on this, she's very different than any character I've ever played, and I really have to let go on this one, almost not prepare in a way. I would say she's trusting, very trusting, and I haven't played a lot of trusting characters, and so it's really been a very hard prep, actually. Prep in the sense I've actually been improving a lot with the director, which has been great. But it's like having her sort of help me, bring me over the threshold. You know what I mean? And trusting that what I'm hearing is her, and just trying as much as I can to just get out of the way, clear, try to make sure I know what the situation is, know what's going on. A lot of times I'll just close my eyes and type and just watch her, anything just to get me out of the way. And if I can keep doing that on a daily basis, hopefully I've done my job, but who knows? Who knows?
Wow. Wow. And are there characters you see on the horizon that either you're thinking about that you wish would come into being? If you could conjure your sort of ideal film up, do you know what it would look like?
Film what?
If you could conjure up like the ideal kind of role, or the, you know, going into this next stage of acting. Do you have any sense of it?
Well, this woman I'm about to play feels very, very sexual, very free, very not neurotic. I guess that, and it feels like I've been going towards this in a way. So I would say coming into myself as a woman, taking up space, announcing, coming in but kind of going out to my edge, and whew, Jesus. Put my seatbelt on. That's what I try to do.
Well, one thing is for sure, we're all going to be hanging around to see whatever it is you do next. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Regis. Thank you.